tweeted out, like, before the defensive drive, I was just saying it's hard to feel great about this, no matter the outcome, because I talked about it a lot, during the offseason that, and we both talked about it, that if we don't, win this game by 10 or more points, it's hard to feel good about it. And in essence, box score wise, yes, probably should have won the game by more, but that is the story of Nebraska football, and that's the story that we're trying to change. So it's hard to sit here and just be able to point that same thing out and just be able to put a positive spin on it, because this is the game that we're supposed to be like, okay, we're turning a corner. We can't be like, okay, let's feel it out the first couple games, because, teams that win on a high level, they do handle business against those teams. They cover the spread against those teams, and more cases than not. So it would have been a nice thing to go out there and put our foot down. It just seemed the offense and defense couldn't get it together at the same time. It was one would get it going and the other would falter.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with the offense's performance. I'm honestly not shocked with that defense. We've been talking about it all off season, and I've been talking about it on Twitter that the defensive line is not big. They're not. And Cincinnati, who has 3 transfer offensive linemen playing their first game together, just ran it down your throat to the tune of 200 yards rushing.
Yeah.
But a win is a win. You won a 1-score game. And what can you build on that as you work to Michigan? Because right now, the rest of the Big Ten just watch that game and just, we're going to hammer it down their throat for 4 quarters. But a win is a win. You got it out, got all that crap play out of your system. Let's build on it now.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you'd rather learn from a win than learn from a loss, of course. Yeah. But yeah, for our own personal feelings, just going into, because week 2, week 3, it's hard to gain confidence in the team just because of the opponents, naturally.
Yeah.
So you wanted this team to kind of inspire some confidence before week 4 against Michigan. Now there's some question marks still up in the air. Again, execution there. We were texting during the game. Right when Pritchett comes into the game, the offensive line does get more of a push. However, we get down to the goal line, and then there's a mental error in the penalty that really keeps us from getting 7 and then forces us to 3. And I think we lost a ton of momentum there, because then that next touchdown only puts us up by 10, So momentum left on the field right there, where we could have just probably early on kind of put the game away to an extent. Going up there by 17 is way better than going up by 10.
Yeah, I mean, it was Pritchett who had the false start too.
Yeah, that's what
which is just kind of, for me, it's sickening, because it's exactly what Coach Rule said his problems were, and then he gets his first snaps of the game. He does phenomenal, and then he did that. And it was like, it's exactly what we've been told was going to happen. And it happened. And I think that actually took a lot of momentum out of it, which you were alluding to, because right there, you were about to go in big, and the defense was really starting to take control of that game at that point. The offense, that was their first really good drive of the game, or the second really good drive of the game. I mean, it felt like you were about to just explode, and then you struggled. I'm so, with the offense performance as a whole, disappointed. I thought that was below piss poor, if I'm being totally honest.
I think the elements of the offense that were there that we didn't see last season at moments, where I talked about Danke a lot this offseason, and how his route running ability and his ability to create separation on those short routes, those quick slants, et cetera, were going to be so big, and that he was going to be such a key part of third down for this offense. And he was a big part of that. In this game, you saw him getting separation on that quick slant there on an important third down. So we saw elements of this offense that wasn't there last year. We saw Raiola kind of being able to, maneuver the pocket a little bit, kind of step up and even throw off balance, off platform, and be able to kind of create in the pocket with that ability to step up and kind of be able to sidestep in the pocket. So we saw elements of things that you didn't see last season. It's just still like the consistency in the other plays. It just wasn't there. It's not, you can't consistently put drives together, because it seems, one, for one reason, or the other, whether we're running a jet sweep behind the line of scrimmage. I don't know why we continue to do that. That is our kryptonite. We continue to run things behind the line of scrimmage, but whether we're doing that or just an ill-advised, sack or breakdown from the front, and just happened at the worst times, and there was just no consistency. And this is year 3. This is where we're supposed to see those consistencies. And yeah, left a lot on the field. So
That final drive was really disappointing for me because I felt like they were getting some things going. It's one thing I like about Dana is when it's crunch time, he's not scared to air it out a little bit.
yeah.
But they were running the ball relatively well tonight. There were some issues here and there, but that final drive, they did the jet sweep that you were talking about, and then that completely derailed everything. And there was no need to run. I look at jet sweeps as kind of like a little bit of a gadget play. In a sense, there was no need to run that. You were
Yeah.
getting 5 yards to carry that drive. Emmett for
Yeah.
the game with that 4.5 yards per carry. They're letting you get 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards every completion because their coverage was so off. They're playing a lot of off coverage. There was no need for that jet sweep, and it completely fucked everything up.
Yeah, and not to just be completely cynical, there was good in this game as well. We did
Oh, yeah.
we did see good. The defense, was excellent in the first half. It just seemed like as the game went along and they got on their heels, whenever Cincinnati had any success with any kind of plays, the defense kind of got on their heels, and it seemed like I don't know what the issue was in containing Sorsby there. I know because there seemed like there was no eyes backwards to be able to come down and try to run fit or at least put a spy out there. It just seemed like we were constantly trying to chase him down to the opposite side of the field, and then he would be in green grass, or he would just step up in the middle of the field, and the receivers just run everybody off. And 10 yards
Yes.
open grass right in front of him.
Dude, it was driving me nuts. I kept tweeting. Like, I'm a huge tweeter during games. I go nuts. And that's literally what their strategy was, because I've been saying it, Sorsby's garbage at throwing. And that was their entire strategy. The drive where they did the no huddle and they basically ran it down our throats. It was run the DBs deep, and then I'm just going to tuck it and run.
Yep.
Because there was no spies. They were in man-to-man coverage. I did not understand, and I'm not an X's and O's guy quite like you are, and I think if Coach BA is still here, he could probably elaborate as well in the chat, but why did they keep doing that? Man-to-man coverage, knowing that's what Cincinnati was doing, just letting the receivers run deep just for Sorsby to tuck it.
Yeah, I would imagine somebody lost their eyes or somebody lost a responsibility there. And we should have put a spy out there. If it's just straight man, if it's a match, you got to have safeties down to run fit. But you saw, early on, Deshaun Singleton stepping down to get that run fit. He did get, crossed up there. But, they had more success at times with that. But it seemed like once Cincinnati got any kind of momentum, the defense was just immediately on their heels. And I didn't necessarily like that, because that was kind of what we saw last year. When especially up the middle, especially if it's a one-dimensional team, like Sorsby at 25, looking right here, 13 for 25, 69 yards, 2.8 yards per attempt, 1 interception, no touchdowns, 13 carries for 96 yards, 7.4 per carry. So no success through the air. I mean, one of the biggest things that you need to do is just make sure you contain him, and to not even put a spy out there, that just really confused me.